Several weeks ago, I was looking for a new series to watch on TV, and I happened across a story called Extrapolations on Apple TV. It's a limited series drama about climate change and what it might look like on Earth in the future. The first episode is set in 2037, just 14 years in the future, and the Earth is experiencing forest fires very similar to what's happening in Quebec that filters down into New York. Sea levels are rising. Hurricanes like Sandy and Harvey are devastating the earth over and over again, flooding the poorer parts of the cities. The next episode is set in 2045, just 20 years ahead in the future, and ice caps are melting at an extraordinary rate. The ice caps reveal mining sites for precious metals for battery production. It's cool enough to swim in the Arctic, and the increased water levels cause flooding. And we're showing a picture of people in Florida in a synagogue in their service sitting with high boots, high rubber boots to protect their feet from the water standing in the floor of the synagogue. Corporations are making money from this climate change. They're making money off the products that filter the toxins from the air and the water. They're making money from building seawalls that define what neighborhoods survive and what neighborhoods have to be forfeited to the rising sea levels. They're retrofitting buildings to bring them up higher so that the water level won't impact congregations like that synagogue. For corporations in this series, climate change is good. It means more profit for them. And as we watch this series, we may come to the conclusion that corporations seeking profit is a societal evil. I had my own personal deep dive into the darkness of profit and its implications on the environment when I served as an interim executive director in a campground in Central Texas. Now, if you've ever seen the pictures of bluebonnets in Texas that spread what seemed to be like forever over rolling hills and amazing countryside, that is where this campground was located. It also happened to be the time when major oil refineries were developing with fracking the Eagle Ford Shale. Now, fracking is a process in which companies drill down through the earth, inject massive amounts of water with some chemicals that are supposed to be non-toxic. The water displaces the natural gas that's stored in the pockets in the rock, and then they capture that natural gas and send it to refineries that power our homes and heat our homes. It's a product that's used by most of us on an everyday basis. I'd seen the signs of fracking as I drove around running errands for the campground, picking up groceries and taking mail to the post office. There were open air water wells that looked like swimming pools at first that dotted the countryside. There were rigs going up as new wells were drilled every couple to 5 miles, it seemed like. There was increased road traffic that made turning into our little campground a little hazardous at times. These signs were all around, but I didn't realize the impact, the personal impact this would take until not far into my tenure in that campground, a well went in across the street. And I thought, oh, well, it's, part of the thing right now, right? But one morning at 7 o'clock, I was awakened by a thud, and then a pulsing, and then a pause. A thud, and then a pulsing, and a pause. And this repeated throughout the day from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. what seemed like an eternity, but must have only been a couple weeks to a month. Every day, thud, pulsing, pause. My heart went out to the other inhabitants of this countryside, the people, and also the animals that must not have known what was going on. I could imagine their fear. Lots of changes happening. What I didn't realize was that the board of this campground, several years in the past, had sold their mineral rights to these oil and gas companies. And so, although we experienced the devastation of fracking, money started flowing in, large amounts of money. And so this little campground that I took over because it was in disrepair was able to use this money to rejuvenate itself. We used part of that money in savings for the future. And then we upgraded the swimming pool that was causing abrasions on the children's feet. We painted and refreshed all the buildings. We fixed the road that had seemed like a washboard when you drove over it, jarring your teeth and rattling out your fillings. We put in a small amphitheater for the children to overlook a small lake so that they could hold vespers, and we made so many small improvements to that campground. So while we might think of the changes and the devastation around the area as, once again, corporations chasing profit and causing environmental evil, was it really? Could profit also be used for good, like we had done at this campground? Fast forward several years, and I started my own business called Greenhawk to help small businesses become financially stable, providing bookkeeping and CFO work to help them make a bigger impact in their environment. However, I wasn't financially sustainable at the time. It was just a couple years into my business, and I struggled to make enough money to pay my own expenses. I struggled to make enough money to pay my company expenses. I struggled to hire staff so that I could work on my business instead of in my business. The turning point came when I attended a webinar by Kelly Ruda called Next Level CEO. And in that, as part of some of the opening exercises, she gave us a list of 10 to 12 words, and we were to write down our first impressions, our first thoughts, our first feelings on those words. And after the exercise was completed, I looked at my list. And most of the words that had to do with money were negative. But there was one that caught my eye even more. And next to the word profit, I had written the word evil. Really not good, especially since I had just become a certified profit first professional. My role was to help myself and other businesses become profitable by using the cash flow system that Mike Michalowicz had developed. But how could I, as a business owner, be profitable if I thought profit was evil? How could I help other business owners if I thought chasing profit was greedy or selfish? If I was going to help other business owners, I needed to review my belief system and my thoughts. And so I started researching profit. I started looking for and reading about profit, about books on profit. One of the first things I did was look up the definition of profit. I'm like, well, surely everybody knows what profit is. And sure enough, the first definition of the word profit is a noun, and it means that bottom line number at the end of a financial statement that tells you how much money you made that year or that month or that quarter. That's the first definition, but there were other definitions. They were verbs, and they came from the 14th century French text. And in those first uses of the word profit, it meant to be of service, to be a benefit. Huh. So I started researching how companies were using profit as a benefit. One of the articles I came across was a group of U.S. businesses, CEOs of major corporations, Apple, Microsoft, whatever you might think of them. They came together in 2019 and decided that the absolute pursuit of profit was no longer serving us as a people and as a planet. And so they redefined what business should be about. And they said the role of business is intertwined with purpose. Businesses should not just pursue profit, but purpose. And they included other stakeholders besides just the share owners of a corporation, those who buy stock in the corporation. They said that the companies should include customers, suppliers, and the supply chain, the community in which the business is serving, and the environment as a whole. As I continued reading, I found another example. Yvon Chouinard of Patagonia, the owner of this company, was retiring. He gave all his non-voting stock to a trust fund that funds environmental renewal and funds charities working against climate change. Pretty cool. As I kept looking and kept researching, I found out there was a whole movement of people and corporations that were trying to do good by doing business. And they came with a variety of tags like just capitalism, conscious enterprise, ecopreneur. People were using their businesses to do good. As a result of all this research and mind shift, I made changes in my own business as well. I had always had a savings account, a profit savings account, per the Profit First system. But now I added a Planet savings account, and I use that money to fund my entry into 1% of the Planet as a business member. I pledge to give 1% of my revenues to that organization to eradicate climate change. I hired some employees to help me with my business, and I pay them well, enough so that they can afford health care. And I started working with companies that also valued purpose and profit. Instead of just working on bottom line numbers and KPIs and tracking revenue and expenses, now we discuss their personal values, we discuss their goals, we discuss how they want to make an impact in their community, we discuss purpose and profit, and we make a plan to achieve it. What I found as a result of that 2-year deep dive into profit was that profit's not just the bottom line number on a financial statement. And although it has, for sure, been used to harm people, to harm the planet, to harm communities, it can also be used for good. Profit can be for people and planet. Thank you.